Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again. It's your favorite time of the week, Keeping It Rio time. I am going to say a controversial statement to start the podcast today. My guest may not agree with this 100%, but I think he'll be pretty close. Welcome back to your favorite podcast, ladies and gentlemen. It's Keeping It Rio. So now that I got that out of the way, I am extremely happy for today's guest because there are a number of different reasons, but first and foremost, I'd like to tell a quick story, if I may. This is episode number 217 of Keeping It Rio. 2+ years ago, today's guest was a first-time appearance on the show, which was episode 108. Had it been just one day earlier, Eric, you would have done it in consecutive 108 episode increments, but this is episode 109 since the last time, so I feel like I'm double and then +1 better than I was. And that's just the way that numbers work, ladies and gentlemen. So with no hesitation whatsoever, 108, 209, or 217, but number one in our hearts, I love nothing more than to welcome my guest, my friend, yours and everybody's friend, the most authentic man I know, podcaster, businessman, father, husband, entrepreneur, deep sea diver, and now, ladies and gentlemen, published author. Welcome to the program, Eric Oberembt. How you doing today, my friend?
Thank you, sir. I'm doing well. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to chop it up with you today.
This is going to be a good one because I just got done reading your book. I got it on launch day. I ordered actually before launch day was official. I got it last week and I finished it up last night. So lots of cool stuff in the book. Congratulations on this accomplishment. This is a crazy number as well, but you're the 29th different author I've had on Keeping It Rio, which when I started this journey, I had never anticipated that. I thought I'd have a couple roofers and never in my wildest dream did I think I'd have 29 different authors, but you're the most recent one here. And you're actually the first one who I've actually read the book before they became a guest. So that's kind of cool.
Or actually read it at all.
Well, okay. You might have me on that a little bit. I did read Adam Bensman's book as well. So not the only one, but I've had 29 authors on there. And this one I think was
3.
Yeah, right. It's been good. Some of them were children's books, and I was able to take those ones down and they were right there in my wheelhouse. But this one was some thought-provoking stuff. And I'd like to first off congratulate you for the new book. And I would like to ask you right off the bat a little bit about the experience. Since this book came out last week, how has your life changed?
I mean, changed, not at all, right? I mean, I just did a thing. I've been talking about doing a thing for a while. I had a lot of people around me that, had written a book. And if you sit in a group of people and you look around the room and you're like, you see what some other people have done, and then you go, you're half fucking retarded. Why haven't I done that? Because I'm way fucking smarter than you are. So like, why haven't I sat down and take the time to actually do the thing that I talk about doing? And at the end of the day, the realization I had is that they just made a decision to do a thing that they cared about. And I hadn't made the decision to do the thing that I wanted to do. And so, I'm not answering your question, but I'm going to get to it. But I was golfing with a buddy of mine and that I met last year, and he was telling me that he wrote a book. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like everybody's telling me I need to write a book. And so I'm like, why am I not doing it? I'm like, Dan did it. Like, why can't, like, what am I doing? And so he introduced me to this publishing group. And I sat down with them, and the process was so smooth. It got me excited. And so I made the decision to do it. It was, to answer your question finally, how it's changed, not at all, but I've had this sense of relief that it's done and that it's out. But then also you get the genuine sense of, you do get a genuine little sense of fear because we do this all the time, dropping podcasts and put out content and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. Like, you can be judged on that. And we are. Some people hate us. Some people love us. Like, that's fucking fine. Whatever. Right. But when you put this out, right, and like you took the time to actually write it, right? I didn't have ghostwriters. I didn't have AI fucking write the book. Like, I wrote the fucking book. So any negative, not even negative, but feedback that doesn't align with the way that I intended, or if people don't take it in the context that I wrote it, I have to live with that forever, right? Because like, it's fucking permanent, you know? And so that's been the realization, because I did put some things in there that I knew that I was very passionate about, and I knew that it would ruffle some feathers, and I knew that it would piss some people off. And if you remember the line, though, I literally wrote the line in the book that says, you know what? Fuck it. It's my book. I can say whatever the fuck I want. So I'm just going to do that. And I did, right? So it's not like, it wasn't a fear thing afterwards, because that's the wrong word. But maybe it's more of a curiosity, right? More of a curiosity of, are people going to receive it the way that I intended? Because people choose to receive things however the fuck they want, right? And I can't control how your brain works. I can only control how mine works and how I put it out. And I'm not going to change my message or how I package it based on what's right or wrong with you. So that's been the challenge, is and waiting on that feedback of it. But my hope is that people are getting something from it, and if they pull one thing out of it that they can put into their lives and change how they operate for the better, then I win. It was worth it, and I'm going to impact more people as I move forward. So at the end of the day, that's really what I give a shit about.
Well, I think you've accomplished that mission 100%. I was very impressed. And one thing that really struck me about this book was you and I are very similar in thought process, in the way that we perceive the world. And I was super happy to read through it, because I thought, you know what? I'm not the only one that feels this way. I think that there are a lot of cases in this world where things are taken for granted. And what really hit me was, your concept of being here in the moment, experiencing things, and enjoying this time, because it is fleeting and we don't know how long we've got. I know people that have been on my podcast that are no longer alive, and nobody saw that coming for some of them. And, I'm sure that they didn't expect it and just one day didn't get up. And it really kind of struck me how you were very persistent about that concept throughout the entire book. Be in the moment. You've been in some places, you've done some things, you've experienced a lot of things in life, and you're extremely open and honest, and dare I say, completely authentic, which that's kind of your thing, as everybody knows from your podcast. But tell me a little bit about this. I'm not going to ask you, tell me, what was the motivation, because I read it. I know what the motivation was. The process that you had with writing the book. You just said you wrote the entire thing yourself. You didn't have someone do it for you. You didn't put it into Chat GPT. You didn't just spit it out there. It was a process. 28 people before you have given me their stories on how they've done it, and it's all been different. I've had people that have gone up in the woods and lived in a little tent for 2 weeks, come back out with a bestseller. I've had people that have done ghostwriters. I've had people that have done it other ways, self-published, publishing companies. Tell us a little bit about your experience as an author now that you've got one out there, and how that process went for you, how you're able to do it with your time and your schedule and such.
So to be fair, this is technically my third book. So because I did write two other books, but they were very roofing specific. So they're boring, but they're great for, I don't want to say marketing, but they are for marketing, right? They're to give to homeowners so they can learn how to choose a contractor. And like the other one is to educate, commercial property owners. So I had been through a similar process, or what I should say is that I thought I knew what I was getting into, right? But I didn't, because of how different this is, because this is like actually got like heart and soul into it, right? There's a lot of personality. If you don't know who I am before reading this book, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I hope you feel like you know me when you're done, right?
Absolutely.
And if you do know me, and you have spent any type of time with me or spoke to me, my hope was is that you could hear me reading the book, right? That you could hear my voice and like how I inflect things, right? And know that it was actually me, right? So my hope is that I landed on those two things, right? So for somebody that already did know me, hopefully you felt the latter, right? And that you could hear me as you were reading it, right? That's my hope. Would that be accurate?
I can say 100% yes.
Okay.
I literally read this entire book in your voice,
Yes.
and it was right on point. You did an
Yeah.
amazing job of
Yeah.
that. And
But
that
you
was
knew
going to
it
be
was
one of
me.
my questions is how many people do you think over the course of the next 35, 40 years are going to come to you and say, Eric, you read that book to me in my mind? Because that's exactly how it was delivered.
If you knew me. So backing up to the question of what was the process like. So this one was different because I engaged this publishing company that was going to help me guide me through it. And what the only part that I knew was that I wanted to take my keynote that I had written and performed, a dozen times about the team method, and I wanted to figure out how to put that into a book and teach people business lessons, life lessons, but then get people to connect with it through anecdotal stories, right? And I also knew that I needed to go a step further and that I was going to need to obviously expand on those ideas and those topics. So what I did was I literally sat down with I don't even know what the hell they called them, but it was kind of like the creative team. And we would literally sit on a Zoom and I would speak and I would just talk and talk and talk and talk for like 2 to 3 hours at a time. And then when we were done, and then we'd break it into chapters based on the topic that I was speaking about. And then they would send it to me in a transcript. And then I would go through and I would edit the transcript and go, oh, nope, that's out. Nope, that's out. Oh, I need to put a different story here. And then I'd write the story and I put the story there and I'd be like, oh, that's not the story that I want there. That story actually goes in that chapter because that plays better with empathy and this plays better with authenticity. And so then I got to move things around. Then I'd send it back to them. They would edit it for like grammatical errors and things like that, shit that I don't know, right? They'd send it back to me again. I'd re-edit it and be like, oh, and then every time they sent it back, I had another thing that I was like, nope, put that there, put another story in there. Literally on the last day I was editing, I remembered the story about my grandpa at the track and how that related to that topic that I was speaking about in that chapter. And I literally added that story on the last day of editing. And so like I added that in and then I literally signed off on it. I uploaded all the pictures that I wanted in it, which were only like 4 or 5, just to give people frame of reference of like who people were. And then, they helped me design the cover and all that kind of stuff. And then it was out. So I could have got this done in probably 3 to 4 months because I already had a baseline of information that I wanted to put in there. But because I was very intentional about how I wanted it to be released, it probably took me about 6 months to get it done.
Nice. And I mean, that's pretty damn good. I'm not going to lie. 6 months to produce what you did. It's a very amazing story and it's your life. And I think some of the things in here, and I definitely don't want to go too deep into it for those who haven't read it. Obviously, one of the goals of the podcast is to get people to buy the book, but you say the team concept. I love every single aspect of it. But the first day that I'm sitting down reading it, one that really hit me was, trust. It's so hard to build trust, but it's so easy to lose it. And the little things, showing up when you say you're going to show up, doing what you say you're going to do. These are things in modern time that a lot of people just basically take, they don't understand the importance. And where I really was instantly kind of engaged in the story was that's exactly how I think. I've got people that if you show up a minute late, to me, you might as well not even show up. I'm early for everything I do. We were supposed to start this recording 7 minutes from now.
Right.
I like to be early. I kind of figured you would be early as well because that's just the nature of the beast. And that whole concept, I think, has been lost on an entire generation. So I hope that some of the people that read this book are able to look at themselves and say, you know what? Maybe I am kind of a dick. Maybe I don't show up when I say I'm going to. Maybe I tell someone I'm going to help them move their furniture and then I don't show up. And this is the way that I'm being perceived, because Eric says it the way that I would like to say it, which is basically, up yours. If you're not going to be here for me, why are you wasting our time? Don't waste my time because it's valuable. And I always am here for you when you need me. So that was an amazing, intro into the book. And then, like you said, you start telling some stories about your life. I'd heard some of them from your previous Keepin It Rio episode.
Right.
From being at RoofCon, from seeing you on stage multiple times around the country, and just from, being your buddy and knowing you a little bit over the course of time. Yeah. And it really was amazing, because in that moment, I thought, this is going to touch a lot of people. And I don't think that you'll probably understand the depth of that for quite some time. But tell me a little bit about some of the feedback that you've gotten from the people that have purchased the book in the first week and a half, the people that have, reached out and said, Eric, I got my copy in the mail. What kind of feedback have you gotten back so far? And has it been what you expected, or has it just been overwhelming?
It's interesting, because I think that for some people, it took a minute for the book to get there for whatever reason. So like feedback's just starting to trickle in. It hasn't been like I haven't gotten flooded, right? Like close friends, right? Obviously, or bring you up and whatever. I haven't gotten any negative like feedback directly, and I don't know if I will directly, just because of, this is going to sound wrong, but just because of who I am, and so like unless it's somebody that's like close to me, that knows me well enough to be like, hey, why, you know what I mean? Because like to get negative feedback on a book that's permanent, right? It's kind of like, what's the point? Because I would never give somebody negative feedback. I would never give somebody like genuine feedback, like to help them, because there's no point. You can't change it, right? You can't go back and do anything about it, right? Like it's in print. You're fucking done. It's done. My guess is that if somebody hates me enough to buy the book, and there's a few of those people out there, and those are the people that I'm waiting to see if they take the time to actually read it and then be ballsy enough to go on social media and shit on it. That's what to be honest, I'm gonna get a kick out of that, right? Because if somebody actually takes the time to read it and then shit on it because they already hated me going in, or they already had preconceived notions of who I am, so they already had confirmation bias of the fact of like, I don't like that guy, right? Like whatever, for whatever reason, right? Because I actually spoke my truth and they didn't agree with it, right? So like no negative feedback whatsoever, right? It's really interesting when you write a book. You expect to get. Here's the point: you expect to get the same kind of immediate reaction that you get when you put out content online, and you don't. It's completely different. So the interesting part will be like as like Amazon reviews come in, what kind of reviews we get for the book, because that's our next big push, is doing a marketing campaign to like get the people that bought it to actually leave us reviews, because that helps boost the algorithm. And then my publishing company just did a press release today to like 52 different media outlets to like actually promote and do a press release on the book too. So I'll be honest, like I've tried to not even think about that part very much, because I've decided that I'm proud of it, right? I've decided that if you read it in the proper context of which it was written and delivered, that I know that people will get something out of it. And if they don't, then they're choosing not to, right? Or they think that they know everything already and they don't need any help with anything. And those people aren't people that I surround myself with anyway, right? I don't like surrounding myself with people that think they have the answer to fucking everything. That's frustrating as shit, right? To spend time with those people. So like, I don't concern myself with those people. So I'm very much at peace with all of it.
I think that's awesome. And the reality of the matter is, I believe that anybody that goes in with the preconceived notion that you're an asshole or they don't like you, number one, thank you for taking the time to buy the book. There's an entire chapter in there that speaks directly to you. And I think that is pretty cool, because at the end of the day, it's beneficial. I think being willing to take someone else's perspective and actually invest your time and energy and money into it to decide whether or not you like them after the fact is far better than just saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to buy that because I don't like that guy anyway, because he cusses on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
And like you say, who really cares about those people, because they're self-important, and it's a major insecurity when someone has to try to diminish the accomplishments or speak negatively about someone that they don't really know personally. But it's a big thing.
I've stopped. It took me a while to really become okay with the fact that of how much noise there is out there, and to try and not engage in it, because there's no point in engaging, because you're never going to change anyone's mind, right? What I like to do, and again, this is obviously something that I talk about in the book in the section about empathy, but is if somebody's actually willing to have a conversation with you and explain where they're coming from and why they have the point of view that they have, I'm always going to listen to that point of view. It doesn't mean that I'm ever going to agree with it. And I understand the same thing, right? And I think that but that's taken growth, right? Because I was not that person years ago. I I now believe that most people, not all people, but that most people are actually coming from a good place, even if they're misguided, or if I think that they're misguided. I think that they're probably coming from a good place generally. Um, but when they won't open up to at least listen to why somebody is the way that they are, or why they feel the way that they feel, I think that that's fucking arrogant, and ignorant, right? I think it's arrogant to think that just because you believe a thing makes it true, right? Now, there's certain things that I believe, and certain ways, certain things that I do to hold myself to the standard that I, hold for myself. But I've gotten to a place where I have to remember that everybody's not me, right? Everybody in my company isn't me. They don't know the things that I know. They haven't had the experiences that I've had. And just like that, the thousands of people that might follow us aren't us. And they don't know what we've done. They don't know what we've been through. They don't know how we got to sit in the chair that we're sitting in now. And if they're not willing to listen to those stories, how do they expect to actually grow and get any better? Right. I wish that, 20 years ago when I was trying to figure all this shit out, it was me and my grandpa. I didn't have any outside noise to try and figure out how to navigate, the world that we live in today. And so that's why I've been very intentional about making sure that I hire coaches and that I'm part of groups and things like that, so that I can learn from other people that have done the thing that I'm trying to do. Right. So I get a kick out of the fact when people shit on that, right? When they shit on good coaches, on good coaching groups, on good masterminds. There's some really bad ones out there, right? But there's a lot of really good ones too. And so I think a lot of it's just keeping an open mind to having conversations and understanding what people are trying to do.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think that it's like you just said, it's growth. And I've been the same way throughout the course of my life. I've been addicted to people that I didn't agree with, and I thought, well, you're an idiot. But then I think what happened for me was almost 4 years ago, it was the advent of this podcast. And this podcast has changed me exponentially as a human being. I have had guests from all over the world. It's not a roofing podcast. This is another similarity that you and I have. This is not a roofing podcast. It stems from me as a young person being very shy, being kind of introvert, and not wanting to go out and put myself out there because I cared so much about what other people thought. And one day I just said, you know what? Screw it. Let's do this and let's have some fun with it. I don't know how many people see the podcast. I know that I get a lot of good positive feedback from people. I get some negative feedback, and that's fine, because it's one of those deals where, okay, I understand where you're coming from on that, and you don't know me as a person. You're judging me based off of whatever it is, and I actually take it as a compliment, because I don't even know who the hell you are, so thank you. And for me, the podcast has been a life-changing transformation, because just like you and the way that you outline it in the book, I've always craved to learn about people. I've always liked to talk to people and kind of hear different perspectives from different backgrounds. I don't judge people based on anything other than my personal experiences with them. And I've got some friends that people are like, that dude's a prick or that guy's a fake or whatever. But my personal experiences are what I judge people on. And I think it's refreshing to have that mindset. And I wish more people in the world would give everybody else a chance to at least show who they are and then say, well, you know what? Yeah, I disagree with you, but you're not a bad guy. We can go play golf together. We can go have lunch or whatever. I'm not going to lean the same direction you are. I'm not going to think the same way, but I respect your abilities and I respect your right to do that.
So here's where I'm gonna disagree.
Okay.
Just to keep it fun. But here's where I'm gonna disagree. I will judge people on how they show up. Right? Because if you choose to show up in a certain way and it's not who you actually are and you're doing it just to get fucking attention, then fuck you. Right? And I'm not going to give any of my energy or my time, because that is in fucking short supply, to go to lunch or play golf or fucking any of those things. Because if you're not showing up as who you are and you're showing up as something different so that you can get clicks and likes and get people to fucking whatever, right? Buy something from you or whatever it is, because you think that that's going to move the needle, my level of respect goes down significantly. And because of that, I've only got this much time and energy, right? And so, like, I'm going to allocate that to the people that align with me. I'm just not going to engage with you. I'm not going to come after you. I'm not going to spend time and energy telling you you're wrong, right? I think that's where the world gets lost, is taking the time to engage with people that they think are wrong, right? I just don't engage. And the funny thing about that is that pisses them off more, right? That pisses them off more when you don't fucking engage. But I'm like, I'm not engaging because it's not worth my time and effort, because I don't need everybody to like me. And I'm fucking cool with it, right? So does that make sense, the way that I frame that a little bit differently?
And it was almost like you do exactly what I was trying to do, which was kind of get a different perspective and say, no, wait a minute, because I did read your book and I knew you were about to say exactly what you just said. So that's pretty good. But I agree.
Because I will judge a motherfucker. I will do that.
And you clearly state that in the book as well. It is clearly stated in those exact words. So that's awesome. And I love the fact, though, that you also mentioned, hey, we can be complete opposites, but if you're cool and you show up as who you are and you don't try to sugarcoat, you don't try to be someone different, you don't try to, gain notoriety off something stupid. You're not taking a picture of your rented Lamborghini that you got for a day and, doing all that stuff. That people can be people, and we don't all have to think the same. We can be different. We can still love each other and still be friends. And you knew exactly where I was going with that. And I love it. We played off each other perfect there. So that's pretty awesome. I love the stories that you tell in the book, throughout the course of your life. I think one of the most awesome ones, and I made a comment on this yesterday on your Facebook post, which this is like a month ago from yesterday when this comes out. So it's way back in the day. I think it was on May 4th that Eric posted this, but you were at your daughter's soccer game. And obviously your daughter's a key part of your life. You tell the story about when you were younger and some of the struggles you went through, some of the things that you did because you wanted attention, you wanted connection. Obviously, it was very detrimental to yourself, in multiple ways. But there's no denying the love that you have for your daughter, the way that you speak glowingly, and some of the things that you do. And I know that in the last episode you did 2 years ago, we talked about how every Sunday you do ice cream with your little girl. And it was very cool to me to see that you were at soccer practice yesterday. And we're going through this entire thing saying, I used to hate this, but now I love it because this transformation in your life. And your daughter's still 9, right? She was 9 in the book.
Yeah. She's 10 this month.
There you go. So let's talk a little bit about how Eric from back in the day, who, like you called yourself, fat fuck that stinks, people in score making fun of you, putting a bar of soap on the chair and screwing with you. You start getting a little bit of confidence, but then as you continue to grow, you still crave that attention or the affection of others and don't really know the way to do it. You go through a whole shit ton of stuff. You end up back at the bottom, and now you're thinking to yourself, Nobody wants me. Life is over. I'm a bum. I'm a piece of crap. Out of nowhere, you're blessed with your little girl. And the story of how she was born on your birth date is absolutely incredible. That damn near brought a tear to my eye. I'm not going to lie, because that's a pretty cool little story. But tell me a little bit about that transformation and how just, another human being was so able to just change you and completely change your entire outlook on everything. And I know you were starting to change a little bit before her birth, obviously, but tell me a little bit about the dynamic, the daughter daddy dynamic that you have with Tegan with two E's like a golf tee.
Yeah. So to reframe a little bit of the statement, obviously, um, I had to change who I was to even have the opportunity to be able to have her, right? So, I mean, I got sober in 2010, in the end of 2009, beginning of 2010, and met my wife in 2011, and went through a transformation from 2012 on where like we got healthy, right? Because that was the thing that I was missing in my life again, because I was always an athlete, I was always in shape. And then I went down this, dark path and, gained all the weight and was a big fat piece of shit, again, later in life. And then my wife and I got healthy. And then in 2015 was when Tegan was born. And I was the guy in the OB's office that was like, "Hey, check the fucking thingamabobber again, because like you got to be missing something because it's got to be a boy, right?" Like I was like, "It's got to be a boy. It's got to be a boy. It's got to be a boy." And at first, I was like, I was genuinely like, shit, Um, when she was born, everything changed. Like it's a real thing when you become a girl dad, right? It's a real thing, and anybody watching this that is knows. And if you aren't, you just don't get it, right? It's absolutely impossible. Just like it's impossible for a non-alcoholic to understand the brain of an alcoholic. A non-girl dad could not understand what it's like to be a girl dad. You have this human, this and female, right, daughter that loves you unconditionally, at least for now, loves you unconditionally. And you have this responsibility not only to protect her from everything, but to teach her how to be strong as she grows up, right? And you have to learn how to do it differently than you were raised, because I was raised basically in the 1950s with my grandfather as my dad, right? And, don't be a pussy, quit fucking crying, fucking, walk it off, put some fucking dirt on it. You know what I mean? Calling me fucking names and get the fuck up. And right, like you can't necessarily raise a daughter like that. I've even watched it just with Natalie coaching her soccer team. Like they can't coach them the same either, because they don't respond the same way that we did when we were younger to different types of coaching and aggression and the things that we do. Um, it made me realize how unimportant I am, right? But how important I am for her and where she's going. And if I don't do that right, and if I'm not there for her, it's such a disadvantage to her. Um, that's why I talk so much about being present, because when she's my age, I want her telling her kids about the things that we did together and the memories that she has of me, because that's the only thing that's left. It's not going to be the shit that I gave her, or the fucking, the gifts that I gave her. None of that stuff's going to matter. What's going to matter is my dad was at every single soccer game that I had, no matter what. If he was traveling, he caught an early flight home so that he could be at the game. We traveled all across the world together and experienced different cultures, and that's how I learned and how I grew up. Like, those are the things that I want her to have because I didn't necessarily have those. I also think, though, and I can't remember if I wrote about this in the book or not. I also think that there's a responsibility to make sure that our kids today are reminded because they don't have it the same way that a lot of us did, which was a little bit harder. And so they're kind of given a lot of things and they think that life is easy, right? And it's fucking not. It's not easy. And you have to work for what you want. And people are given so much shit today is why we have this entitled culture of people that think that the government should fucking take care of them. And, like just all these different things that like it's not their responsibility to take care of themselves. It's somebody else's fucking responsibility. Well, it's not. Nobody fucking cares, right? It's on you. And so if we're not teaching our kids the same thing, we're setting them up to fail. And it's a really bad precedent to set. So I appreciate you asking the question. It's really hard to put all of those feelings into words because of how much, that relationship means to me. And I know that I'm not perfect at it. I know that I fuck it up on occasion. I know her and I will get into it. She makes me feel bad. I make her feel bad. But at the end of the day, do I realize when that happens? Do I rectify the wrong? Do I not let it sit? You know what I mean? Like, do I do all the things that nobody did before to me to be able to have the conversations? Am I communicating with her? Am I truly trying to make connections? Right? Like I said in the book, am I truly trying to make connections? I do all the things that I talk about in the book, to build trust by empathy and authenticity and giving meaning. I do all those things not just at work, but I try to do them at home as well to be able to make those relationships better. And so that's why I put all that in the book because I wanted people that, people are going to buy a book if there's like a business reason behind it. Generally speaking, you're going to get more people to pay attention to it. And there's a ton of that in the book. But when you get done with it, I think you feel more impacted by the personal lessons that are taught in it because you realize that it's not just business where you implement these things. It's your life and it's your relationships and it's your kids and it's your wife and it's your friends and it's all the different people in your life that you can do the same work with to be able to start connecting with them better.
Yep, it really is. And I was expecting, like you say, a business book. There are a ton of principles that you can apply to your business. Obviously, I love the fact that you take the time to get to know your people. You said many times throughout the course, you want people that are going to stay with you forever, that are never going to have a reason to want to go elsewhere, and making them know that they're important, making them know that they're special, understanding each individual person is absolutely crucial. And I've been in situations where I've had that. I've been in situations where I haven't had that. And it means the world when someone that is viewed as a leader, someone that you're working for, for your company, your company has a lot of meaning to you. Your grandfather started it. You continued it along the path and have grown it into something much larger than probably anybody would have ever been able to anticipate. And using those principles to get the right people to show them, hey, I am who I am. I know I'm not perfect, but I care about you. I want to know more about what makes you tick, and I want to help you get to where you want to be in life. I think that's absolutely the biggest takeaway that I got from the book. And it really made me kind of reflect on myself a little bit because I've taken a lot of pride over the last few years of really starting to know the people that I work with in my company, the people that are around me on a day-to-day basis. And one thing that I thought of immediately when I was reading this was a guy that works with me. His name is Francisco. And he came into my office about 3.5 years ago, just randomly. He said, hey, I saw your reviews on social media, and I just want to know if you guys are hiring. This looks like a pretty good company. I want to know if you guys are hiring. Well, ironically, Eric, I fired my repair tech like 15 minutes before this dude showed up. And he's a specialist in repairs. I thought the repair guy that I had was a dick. He was a piece of crap. We let him go. This guy shows up, and the first question I asked him was, what makes you tick? Why did you come in here today? What are you looking for? What did you see in my company that led you here to think that this would be a good fit? And his answer had nothing to do with money. It had nothing to do with prestige. It was, I want my kids to be proud of me, and I want to be able to give them a life that they probably won't be able to have unless I find something that is going to be better than what I've been doing. And he wanted to have a company that took pride in the work and all that other stuff. But the deal
Yep.
with the kids really stuck with me. And I thought, you know what? All these years down the road, I'm going to do something that's going to help this guy. And I want to teach him along the way. He's older than I am. And confidence was a problem. He didn't really have a lot of that because he's been in that labor mentality his whole life. So you get into that rut of thinking, you know, this is all I am. I'm not anything special. Nobody's going to want to listen to me. Nobody cares. And when you start to show them that you really do care and you want to know and learn more about them, and then you start to apply some of the things that they tell you into what you're doing, and then they come back and say, you know what, it means the world to me that you asked me how my kids were doing in school. You asked me how my wife was doing. You asked me how my day was, because a lot of people don't do that. You get taken for granted. And the example you had was, you know, being in college, you're just a number. Nobody
Right.
cared what your name was. They just say, you know, Eric, not even Eric. You're just, you know, number
Social security
301,
number.
whatever,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And the way that it made you feel, you lost all interest and you ended up leaving. So let's talk a little bit about the dynamic in your company with the people that you've got around you. Number one, how do you go about finding the right people to continue to fit into your chemistry? How do you continue to put these personalities together and maintain a relationship with everybody on your team as it continues to get bigger? And this question has nothing really to do with your book other than these are the things that you implement and that you talk about in the book. How does that dynamic look for you with your business as, you know, you continue to move along in life and continue to grow and develop as well?
The big thing is putting trust into my leaders, right? So my leaders and like my general managers of both of my locations, I don't hire anybody unless they sign off, right? So like I'm not bringing somebody in and trying to force feed somebody down somebody's throat and like you need to figure out how to work with this person. So I'm always giving them right of refusal to veto anybody coming in because the culture that I want inside of my organization, we all know that culture trickles down from the top, right? But I don't get to touch everybody. And so I need to make sure that the people that I am touching, that they are in turn doing the same thing for everybody that's under them that they're managing. So I always give them the authority to say yes or no. I give them the authority to bring to me if somebody needs to be fired. And if they call, they're like, I think we need to let this person go. I'll just be like, okay, why? And they'll tell me, I'm like, if that's what you like, if you can replace them, if you don't think they fit the culture, then do it. Right. How I find them, great question. Don't really know. What's been interesting is that because of the podcast and my profile and the content that I put out, I do get a lot of people reaching out to me directly now, which is nice. But then you have to filter, right? Then you have to filter through them to try and figure out if they're real. Again, are they putting on a fucking show on social media to pretend that they're one thing, and then when they show up, they're completely different? So you can't base a decision based off of social media, good or bad, right? Problem is that if it's bad on social media, it means they're not even taking the time to make sure that it's accurate, right? If it's not, right? So it's about taking the time and trusting in your leaders. And if you don't trust the leaders inside of your company, then that's where you have to start over, right? You have to start over there because I can't see everything that's going on. I travel a decent amount. I'm gone 2 or 3 times a month, and I travel back and forth between my Houston location, and then I'm here so I can be at home with my family, and then I'll go somewhere and speak, or I'll have another little business thing going on because I've got my hands in 2 or 3 different pots, you know. So like I'm gone a lot, and I have to know that I can trust those people to take care of shit when I'm not here. So you treat them right, right? And I think that the stuff that I'm saying is not fucking rocket science at all. But the problem is what we started at the beginning of the show with. doing what you say you're going to do, right? So, like, if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And everybody in my organization knows that if I say something, that I'm going to do something, I do it. And just because circumstances change, and maybe that decision now negatively impacts me, let's say financially or whatever it is, if I said I'm going to do it, I'm going to fucking do it. And so if there's one pillar to retaining good humans inside of your organization, I think that if you can be a person that truly keeps their word when they say they're going to do something, I think that you'll be shocked at the difference that makes. Because again, people might not like me for whatever reason, but nobody can say that I did anybody wrong, right? I've never fucked anybody over. I've never not paid somebody what I agreed to pay them in their agreement, right? And I'm very upfront, like when you sign people up and I say, this is your agreement, these are the expectations. If you don't fucking do the things that you're agreeing to do, then you don't get paid X, Y, or Z. If you do the things, you get paid X, Y, and Z. I think a lot of people try to hide stuff, right? So then when they fuck up, they're like, oh, not paying you. And they're like, well, I didn't know that. It was in your agreement, right? But nobody talks to them about the agreement, right? So I don't care if I read the agreement to somebody, and again, I know this is very specific to like job related stuff, but if I read the agreement to somebody and they go, ooh, I don't like that, like that's scary. And it's like, okay, then we don't have to do this. Because if that scares you, that means that you in the back of your mind think that there's a chance that you're not going to do what you say you're going to do. So I don't fucking want you here anyway. So I'm glad we got this out of the way early, right? Because now it's not a conversation. It's a, you said this, you did this, so now you have to leave, right? And that just doesn't happen that often. I have to fire people off, like that happens, of course, right? I have to let people go or they're not a fit. I make a bad decision. We all make bad decisions. But I would say overall, I'm very fortunate in that generally I make good decisions and then I'll invest the time into the people so that they know that they're actually cared about. And I think that's all that people want. People want to feel safe and they want to feel that somebody gives a shit about them at the place that they operate.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And adopting that mindset over the last several years has really changed everything for me as well.
Yeah.
And I know there was a time where I would hire anybody that would come in the door, hey, this is a great opportunity. You could make a ton of money. And when I turned the script around and said, why don't you tell me why you should be on my team? Why should I invest my time, money, and energy into you? That's
Yep.
when everything changed. That's when I started getting the real high producers, the quality people, the ones that show up, that do what they say they're going to do, that act professional. And I know without any hesitation, they're going to do the right thing every single time. And
Yep.
to me, that's the ultimate key to success, is being able to put your trust in someone and knowing that they're not going to betray that trust, because we've had trust betrayed many times.
Yeah.
And I've made terrible mistakes and my judgment was horrible at one point. But the further I go along in life, the more I realize exactly what you said, is people just want to feel like they're wanted and that they're needed and that they're important. And if you can get people to feel that certain way about themselves, they're going to be loyal. They're going to do what's right. They're going to help you grow an amazing team. And that really, that I think that's an amazing concept that a lot of people that are watching this probably should focus a little bit more on in their own lives, because I talk to a lot of people and, everybody's at a different point where they are, but that's a very valuable lesson that I think everybody should pay a little bit more attention to, is instead of herding everybody through and saying it's a numbers game and, you've got to get rid of this. I focus more on quality than quantity at this point. And I think that
Yep.
the results they're undeniable. So that's pretty awesome stuff, Eric. I appreciate that. Let me ask you this. You're a world-renowned stage speaker. Like I said, I've seen you at RoofCon a couple times. I've seen you at some different events. You've got a book out now. You're reaching the masses. What's your schedule look like, moving forward as far as travel, events, things of that nature? you still going to continue to do as many as you've been doing? Or are you going to kind of diversify a little bit and maybe instead of going to RoofCon, going to, you know, I say growth con. I know that's a real thing, but, you know, looking at different demographics, I guess, to speak to, or how has that evolution looked for you? How's that going to continue to evolve as you move down the road? Because now you've got a book, and as many roofing people are going to read it as humanly possible. There's going to be also millions of regular people from all different walks of life. So you're reaching different audiences. What's that look like for you moving forward?
So I will always go to RoofCon, just for the sole fact that Hunter has always been one of my biggest cheerleaders and supporters. As similar and different as we are, he's always seen through the noise of other people's opinions, maybe of me, and he's always supported me like at a really high level. And I will always promote and be part of the RoofCon family for sure. So I'll always be there with my podcast. If he ever wants me to speak again, I'll always be there to speak. That will always. Um, I might try to go back to D2D Con this year. Last year I wasn't able to go because of my exhale trip for my mastermind was during that time, and so like it just logistically I couldn't go. But I would always be at D2D Con because Sam Taggart is also one of those people. Between Sam and Hunter, those are the two people that really helped me and like put me on stages and believed in me when maybe nobody else did. Right. So like those two guys, if there's anybody out there watching, like those are two guys that you should absolutely always work with. Right. Like those are good humans. They'll take care of you. They're not going to do you dirty. Like that's cool. As far as other events in our space, I'll be honest, I'm taking a break. I'm a little burnt a little bit. Unless I'm asked to speak and paid to speak, I won't be attending any other roofing conference, most likely. Um, to your point, my goal is to branch out. I'm doing some due diligence and some work to try and get into some different niches, maybe some other blue collar niches, even white collar niches into real estate, finance, you know, things like that, because all of these concepts apply across the board, right? All of these concepts apply across the board to it doesn't matter what industry you're in, as long as you have people and teams. These are things that people need to know about and need to implement into their lives. So my goal for the rest of the year is to find a few new places to speak, to get the message out, to be able to help other people in different industries, to hopefully connect with other humans, excuse me, that are maybe missing, you know, a couple of the concepts that are inside of the book and are things that I speak about. So I 100% want to do that. That's, I'll be honest, it's proving a little more challenging than I anticipated, just because like you have to truly go out and find those things, because I was very spoiled because I've made really good friends with, you know, people that already had events and such. And so like they saw through the noise and gave me these really amazing opportunities. So now that I've got the book, I've got the podcast, I've got, you know, the content that I do put out, you'll know right away whether I align with your audience or not, right? And that's done intentionally. And so the goal is over the next, you know, couple of years is to get more engagements like that, because I truly enjoy that. It's not just about the money, but it's about the fact that now I've drawn a line in the sand that says I'm worth this. I put in the time, and me showing up and speaking on a stage is worth X amount of dollars because you're taking my time. I don't have 100 things that I'm going out and selling when I'm on a stage, right? So I'm there to truly impact and influence the people in the audience. So that is my goal moving forward, and I'll keep doing the podcast. I thoroughly enjoy doing that. Um, I'm going to keep doing that, and I definitely don't think I'll write another book anytime soon, because that was a lot of work. But I'll keep doing all the stuff that I'm doing because I do truly enjoy it. But I've got a lot of stuff business wise on the horizon as well, as far as a roofing company goes and expansion into different markets and things like that. So like I've got a lot of stuff working behind the scenes on that as well. That's really exciting.
Yep, busy man. And I will say this, I've got one other book that sits on the set here, Keepin It Rio. And if you look right there, it's actually Hunter Ballou's book. So this is going to stand right up beside that. My two favorite authors that I've had on the show. And you did mention Sam Taggart. Okay. There was one, every episode I do, I have a wild card question, and it's always about something that's, just kind of out there in left field. So I'm reading your book. You've got some great glowing words for Sam Taggart, how you didn't think that you were going to connect with them. You go to a retreat, you're thinking you're going to quit. You don't like the feedback that you're getting from some of the people, don't feel like you fit in, but you guys develop a close relationship and you've become very close friends. But there was a story in the book that was kind of left as a cliffhanger. And my goal for today is to get the rest of the story, Eric. So I'm reading through this deal, and all of a sudden you talk about Sam Taggart almost got me killed in the desert because the boat took off. So I need to know, because you didn't really tell the whole story there. So now, ladies and gentlemen, is the opportunity of a lifetime to hear this story from the man himself. Tell me a little bit about how you almost died in the desert with Sam Taggart.
Well, first of all, Sam's a fucking lunatic. I love Sam, but he's a goddamn fucking crazy person. And if I go anywhere with him, like my wife and my kid are like, just fucking come back alive. Just don't die wherever you're going, because like something always happens when I'm with him. Like he broke my fucking arm in a razor. We hit another razor head on, and I snapped my fucking ulna in half. And I was 3 hours from a hospital, like crazy shit. But the story that you're talking about, we were in Lake Powell, and he wanted to take a bunch of us to go on this hike. And so if anybody's been to Lake Powell, it's really weird because it's really cool. It's beautiful, but everything is a sheer wall, right? So it's not like there's no beach line, right? Like there's a couple places out in the open, but it's all these little tributaries with this sheer wall. And so to get to the place that we wanted to hike, you have to go through these tributaries where nobody fucking goes down them, right? And you find this place, and then you had to kind of shimmy up this sheer wall. We had to throw a fucking rope up, and somebody had to hold the rope that could climb it, and then hold the rope so the rest of us could pull up this hill. It was rounded. So we get up there, and they anchor the boat, and we go on a hike for 2 miles or something to go find these really cool caves or some shit. And it starts getting dark, and I'm like, we're in the middle of the fucking desert. We need to get back to the fucking boat. So half of us are like, dude, Sam, we're fucking going back to the boat. Because we don't know where we're going, right? We're sun setting that way. We came from that way. We're going. So we start walking back. We get back to where we know the boat is. And we look over, and again, the sun's going down. And we look over, and the fucking boat's not there. And we're like, there's no way. The boat's got to be there. So we start grabbing rocks, and we're throwing rocks over the side, waiting for it to go cling and hit something. And all we hear is ploosh, ploosh, ploosh. And we're like, what the fuck? There's no boat. So then everything's running through our brains. We're like, somebody came by here and took the boat, because we knew that he left the fucking keys in it. I don't know if he did or somebody else did, but somebody left the keys in it. And we're like, somebody took the boat to fuck with us, and the boat's gone. There's no shoreline to walk back to civilization. You're in the middle of the goddamn desert. There's nowhere to go. So we sit there for a long time waiting for them to come back. One girl fucking slides down the thing in a thong. She had a thong on, and she slid down, and now her ass is bleeding, and she's stuck in the water because she can't climb back up because she's wet. So now she's sitting in the water waiting for us to figure out what we're going to do. We're there for probably an hour and a half. Now it's dark. It is pitch fucking black. And Sam actually gets back, and somebody walked half a mile down the ridgeline and found the boat. But the only way to get to it was to go down where we were, and again, no shoreline, and swim to the boat. And so Sam jumps into the water and swims the half a mile or whatever it was to get the boat, come back and get us, right? We all load up in the boat. So we thought we were going to die there. I literally had this moment of this is where I'm going to die. That was the last time I saw Tegan. this is where I die. So we get in the boat, and now you have that moment of like, we made it, right? But what we forgot is that it's pitch dark. There's no light on the boat, right? We all turned our phones on to try and be able to see because there's sheer walls on both sides of the boat, and it's only like 15 feet wide. And he's fucking hammered down going like this, and the water's low as shit. So there could have been anything coming up that if we'd have hit it, we'd have just stopped and all fucking died. I don't know how we got back. It took an hour and 45 minutes for us to get back to the houseboat that we were staying in. And there wasn't one person on that boat, except Sam probably, that actually didn't have a thought of, we're going to die tonight. We all 100% thought that we were going to die that night. And we didn't. So there's an amazing sense of relief that night, the next day. But the point of the story is that those are the experiences though that like change you as a human, right? And like those experiences kind of make you who you are, right? Like I don't want to experience that again, but I had to experience at that moment. I didn't have a choice. So I could have done one or two things. Like I could have freaked out, punched him in the fucking mouth and taken the boat over, which to be fair, that's probably what I should have done. But I didn't, and I trusted him. And I was like, you've made this drive 100 times because you come here all the time. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you're not going to kill me. And he didn't. And, like I said, one of my good friends to this day, I appreciate the shit out of that man. But yeah, that was the day that I almost died on Lake Powell.
There you go. Trust is important, ladies and gentlemen. Moral of the story for sure. Yes. And what a story it is. If you don't cheat death at least a few times in your life, are you really even living and having fun?
No.
And I can definitely appreciate that. So we're going to start to wind it down a little bit. We've been talking for over an hour. One question I also want to ask you, which is kind of a little bit off the beaten path. When you were getting ready to launch this book, you posted something very personal about this. And this was that your friend had also written a book and you wanted your launch party to beat his. You wanted to have the launch party of all launch parties. You wanted to sell more books than your buddy. The question, the $1 million question, Eric Oberembt, did you in fact defeat your friend with your launch party? Did you have a bigger coming out for the book than your buddy? And do you get to talk shit to him for the rest of your life now because of it?
What do you fucking think?
Of course you did.
Yes,
of course
you did. I did. Now, do I know if I sold more books than him? No, I don't know that. I didn't look into that. My only goal was to get more people at my launch. So I know that I did that. And it wasn't about him, obviously, right? Like, but I love being a little bit competitive. And I was playing golf with him and I was like, how many people did you have sign up for your launch? And he was like, oh, we had about 50. And I'm like, how many showed up? He's like, I don't know, like 35. And I'm like, that's a really good ratio. And so I was like, I want to get 100, which I thought was fucking crazy. And I had 120 sign up, and I had like more than 65 or 70 actually show. So that was, that was a huge win for me. I've not a win because I did more than him. It was a win just because like I tried to accomplish something and I did it. And that made me feel really good. It was more about how humble it made me feel during the actual event, because the purpose of the launch was so that we get everybody to buy it at the same time to be able to raise the numbers on Amazon so that I could get that status, which you admitted in the beginning, you fucked that up by getting it before the launch. But
indeed,
giving the shit, yeah. But there was a purpose to it, right? And so like, and I told people that I wasn't like trying to hide the fact. I'm like, look, I'm doing this thing. This is why I'm doing the thing. Will you help me with it? And the fact that all of these people showed up to support me, that was extremely humbling. The fact that they hadn't even read it, like they just believed in me enough that they were like, I'm going to be there. I had guys that were literally at the gym in an elevator taking a shit, like they were on the call. And that was, it's really hard to explain the feeling of, of humility that I had, and the overall gratitude is a better word. The overall gratitude that I had during that, because you don't realize the people that really are behind you, right? Until you do a thing like this, right? And you also learn who wasn't and you thought was, right? You also learn that very quickly as well. But this whole experience has been really cool for me. I've really enjoyed it, but I truly hope that the words that I wrote and the stories that I tell truly have an impact on the people that consume it, and I hope that it makes a difference in people's lives. And if it did, then again, that's the win for me. I don't really care. I care about how many copies I sell, but it's not about money. I don't make any money. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to make any money selling this book, right? Like, I won't sell enough of these fucking books to make one goddamn mortgage payment, right? Like whatever, right? But I hope that it gives people the opportunity to have a conversation with somebody, or to maybe even look at it and be like, man, I love the idea of the group that you put together, and I'd love to have that accountability and be part of that, right? And to be able to grow that community of people that I have in cult culture movement, and challenge people to do things outside of their comfort zone, and go scuba diving, right? And like, I do that once or twice a year with my Exhale Mastermind. We're doing a trip in the fall where I'm going to take people that are just in CCM, and we're going to go do like a hog hunting trip, right? And get, 15, 20, 30 of us together and go spend 2 or 3 days together and be able to like actually spend real connection time with each other, not just on Zoom, having conversations. So I'm excited for the future of what this is. This isn't about making money. Yes, I have to transact that way, because if I'm going to give people time, I need to get something in return, because I'm taking away time from something else that I could be doing. So like, people have to respect the fact that like, time does cost something. So, but it's not about like turning this into a business. Like, I'm not going to get rich doing this. I do this because this fills my cup. And so as long as I can continue to do it, and as long as people want to be part of a thing that I'm doing, I'll continue doing it.
I love it. And the best part of that story is, as demented as this may be, is I now know how many people really truly love you, and you know that as well, based on the
Yeah, it's
amount of
about
people that showed
67.
up.
Yeah.
67 people, but
That's it.
nothing
That's it.
says Eric, I love you more than attending your book launch while taking a shit. That
Right.
is outstanding. Whoever did that, that's a true friend right there. That's someone that made time.
Yep.
They took a special amount out of their day of something very important to be
Yep.
there with you. And nothing says friendship quite like that. So
Agreed.
that's amazing. I think you're going to change a lot of lives with this book. I think you're going to find that you're going to reach more people than you probably would have ever anticipated. You'll probably never even truly understand the depth that it's going to reach. And just like the podcast, I tell people, I don't know how many people watch this, but I'm always humbled when someone comes up to me or someone reaches out and says, hey, I like what you're doing. I appreciate it. I like some of the people that you talk to. It's not just roofing. You get all these different people, and it really means a lot, and that's why we do what we do. I do it for the personal connection. I'm like you too. I will never, well, maybe I hope someday someone sees the podcast and says, hey, let's give this dude like $20 million to do a 4-hour radio show Monday through Friday. I would be totally available to that if anybody would like to offer that.
Sure.
I'm not going to hold my breath, but we'll see. You talk about the transactions. Obviously, that is a part of it. And I want to make a challenge right now, ladies and gentlemen. We need to help Eric make at least enough money to make one mortgage payment. I'd like for him to make enough money to buy a whole goddamn house off this thing.
They don't know.
Anybody wants to get a copy of Shut the Fuck Up and Listen More, Eric, what is the best way they can go about doing it? And
Amazon. You can go to Amazon. You can get the Kindle version, the paperback, or my favorite, the hardback version. I love the hardback version because to me, that's a real fucking book. I will tell you right now, I make absolutely no money on the hardbacks because I priced them so that people could buy them, and they cost significantly more to make. So I make absolutely almost nothing on hardbacks. But I love I love hardback books because I think it's a real book and like you want to put it on a bookshelf and like keep it, right? But yeah, Amazon, just search my name. You don't even have to search, shut the fuck up and listen. I am the only Eric Oberembt in existence in the fucking world. So just Google Eric Oberembt on Amazon and my 3 books will come up and you can pick up Shut the Fuck Up and Listen More.
There you go. After you read the book, it's very imperative that we go to Google or to Amazon and leave that 5-star review and tell everybody what you thought about it. So this man can read and see the lives that he's impacted, and we can continue to boost the algorithm so that one day we say, hey, Eric, remember that time you said you weren't going to make any money and you're swimming in a pile of cash from it. So that's our goal. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here. Like I said, 29th author I've had on the show. I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined that, but yours is the only one that I actually read beforehand, and I really, really enjoyed it. I took a lot away from it. I know that you're going to change a lot of people's lives, and can't wait to see what the future holds for not just the book, but for everything that you do in life. You help a lot of people, and you're someone that I'm very inspired by and someone that I look up to. And I appreciate you taking the time to get on here and chop it up with me on Keepin It Rio for the second time, 109 episodes after the first. And I guess now it's kind of going to have to be set in stone that 110 episodes from now, you're going to have to be my guest. So
keep track. Keep
318. Yep. 318 is going to be Eric Oberembt, ladies and gentlemen. So you guys think of the questions now, and we will have them ready to go at that time. Before we bid adieu to the audience, this is something I always need to do. It's very important to me. Is I need to say thank you to my sponsors. My sponsor, roofer.com. Eric, I know you're in the roofing world. You probably use Roofer all the time. It is a wonderful program that I love. They've been my sponsor for 3 years. Roofer is the all-inclusive plan for every roofing contractor, from the first initial contact with your homeowner through the entire process, all the way to the final payment. You can't go wrong by using roofer.com. So thank you to those guys. Thank you to Smart Tarp, who also throws me a little bit in here to do some publicity for their product. Great product. I've got a giant tarp with my face on it that I put on the side of someone's house. And that's actually part of my sales pitch. If you go with me, I can give you the one thing nobody else is going to give, and it's a giant picture of this on your front porch. And it's been pretty good. So Smart Tarp, thank you to everybody. Thank you to my friends at Bradford Roofing Supply as well, Columbus, Ohio. I am very grateful for the relationship I have with them. So until next week, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for continued support of the show. And as I end every single episode with the corniest line in the history of the world, until next week, remember, ladies and gentlemen, to keep on keeping it Rio. We will see you next Thursday at 7 o'clock. Eric, stick around for just a couple seconds after we're done. Going to play an ad for my sponsor, and we will see you guys next week.
We're Roofer. We know that managing a roofing business can be chaotic, so we created a single platform with all the tools you need to easily run your roofing business. Stop switching between multiple different softwares and experience streamlined operations from lead to payments in hours instead of days. Visit roofr.com to get started for free.